You can't quantify AI search the way you used to quantify SEO. It is completely different. It is like trying to compare a smoke signal to an email.
First, can you explain to me the difference between an AI search and a normal search on Google?
Yeah, look, I can certainly explain to you what a Google search is. Everyone's familiar with that. You go to google.com or in the Google app, whatever it might be, and you effectively ask Google a statement. Right? That's a Google search. It's a static thing that you do. You'd most likely go through, find something that gives you more information, and if it's not answered for you in the results that you see, that's a Google search. An AI search is incredibly different. And I'll give you the example. So I want to make cupcakes. So I go to Google and I type in cupcake recipe. It's going to bring me recipes for cupcakes. Pretty obvious, right? But if I go into AI search, I have a lot more options to solve my problem of needing to make cupcakes. So I might actually show the AI engines with the ingredients you see in these two photos, what can you recommend a cupcake recipe? And so I take a picture of what's going on in my pantry and I take a picture of what's going on in my fridge. The AI is then going to go away, think about what it sees, what it recognizes, and what it can put together. And then I'm going to have a conversation with that AI that will resolve in the conclusion of making cupcakes. Now, those results or what's influenced and trained the AI probably came from scraping search results either at that moment or at some other period of time. But there is no action of me picking a website, choosing something. I'm now having a conversation with AI. And so that's why, Raph, I can't give you a clear definition of what AI search is the journey that someone takes when they do it is going to be far more personal, far more individualized than what we're used to.
Speaking of this journey, speaking of how people are actually using it, how does it differ, practically speaking?
Well, it differs practically speaking in that you're not using the search engine Google just as the gateway to the bit of information you need, right? And I know people will argue zero-click search, pulling it in. All right, so we'll include that. In AI, you're having a conversation about the problem you're having. And how you find that resolution is going to depend on how that conversation goes and what the specific things is. So it's not linear anymore. It's not A to B, right? As a Google search is, the user journey is A, potentially B, C, D, E, F, G, and then each of them have their own path and have their own path and have their own path. But what is most likely not happening is that there's the need for someone to go and visit a website to conclude that search, unless it is for a transactional purpose. So if I'm doing my cupcake question, back to that analogy again, and I'm doing AI search, it might say, you can make this. I'm like, oh, I don't really like those cupcakes. What about blueberries? And we don't own blueberries. Okay, if I go to the store and I buy blueberries, could I make a cupcake recipe, or would I need to get a few other things? That could be what happens. And then I'm like, oh, what is there? Can you find me a grocery store that's open now? Then it might find me a search result and I will go there. So that'll happen at the very, very end of that journey, maybe. Now, all those other data points, so maybe I do end up on a website in this one is what I'll say, or I end up walking into someone's store. So there is a transaction at the end of that chat. But getting there, so many other websites, sources, recipe books, a lot was consulted to be able to give me that information and for me to have that conversation about making a cupcake. Was I making a cupcake or a muffin? Whatever I was making, right? The baked product I was making.
Does that mean that the expectations from the users are different when they search on AI and when they search on a browser?
In both instances, they're trying to solve a problem. right? When you go into Google and you type in a comment, you have a problem that you want to solve. It might be something like, oh, what does this word mean? Like a very basic thing, or it could be like, can you restaurants near me? Like those things like that. That you're hungry. You need to go get food. And when you're solving the problem with AI, it's very, very different how you're going to solve that problem, right? Very, very different. So in both situations, you're expecting a resolution to the problem that you have, but it's not an apple for apples comparison. And look, I don't know if we're going to get into this in a later question. That's, I think, one of the biggest problems SEOs and marketers and companies have right now, in that they're treating it like it's an apples for apples comparison. It's not.
Yeah, I mean that's the I would say the next step. Whoever talks about needs means that there has to be a solution, and if there is a solution offered, it means that there is a product, and if there is a product, there is a market. So one of the, I would say, fields that evolves very fast on the AI side is a large number of platforms are actually racing to build the next generation, like the AI generation of Martech, that would be able to track basically the impact of AI on brands. I know you are specialized in this, so can you break down these efforts for me?
Well, look, specialized is very nice when you say that. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I have been around for several generations of Martech and used them and seen the evolution of it. And I do agree that right now companies are trying to work out how to measure how effective they are at basically marketing to people via the AI engines. I disagree that they're going to be successful. I don't think they can be successful. The only person who could bring out a product that would be able to tell you how effective you are on ChatGPT to any kind of value would be ChatGPT, because you need to see behind their service, right? Tools can tell you if there is that outbound click to your site, sure, right? And existing Martech tools can do it. It's basically just another referral source. There's nothing interesting in that. But to actually understand how your content from your website is being used to train and formulate those higher level conversations, like the muffin cupcake example I got you there, that data is going to be closed. And that data is going to depend platform to platform to platform. We are seeing some really exciting experiments out there with people who've worked out how to game these models. And it is like the start of the SEO war, when you used to be able to do all the dark stuff, like adding meta keywords or filling the page with buzzwords or phrases, and then just making the color the same as the background. It is kind of that era right there in terms of optimizing it. But as we go into the professional tools, I don't think it can be done, right? I don't think it can be done. And I'm not worried.
But so how can you be successful at AI optimization?
Let me ask you, Raph. So let's have a little imaginary right now, a little thought experiment. It's 1952. You, Raph, you work for an advertising agency, and they want to go out and run radio ads. How can you be sure you're successful at radio advertising? There's no internet, there's no search, there's no mobile phones, there's no geo tracking of people. There is none of these basic things that our generation of marketer has come to rely on in one way or another. And yet, radio didn't go broke.
True.
Right? TV industry came along with their ads, and let's not go into the mistakes that they made, but how do you know your TV ads were working? You didn't even have Nielsen's or survey data or devices that would track what shows you're watching at different times, or any of these other technologies that come out there. You didn't know. But there were still brands that were very, 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 very successful at advertising. So what I will say to you to answer that question is what's become your digital way of measuring these impacts and things. Not all of them, but a lot of them are going to go away. And you're going to need to start looking at other things that you might want to do. Like there are easy things you can do. So you can start checking if the agents are even crawling your site. You can start checking at what pages they're doing in their sites. You can start doing experiments to try and see if you can make really specific things on pages that are very unique rank or be referenced by models or be pulled out in the searchable snippets. There's got to be things that you can do, but it's going to be a different process, and it's a process that I feel will more likely resemble the 1952 advertising marketer who's trying to have attribution. You're going to be a few steps ahead of him, and that you do have technology and all of these other things going on. But yeah, that's what we're going to be, right? That's what we're going to be, and people are going to need to adjust for it, and I'm all here for it. I've been all here for it since the GDPR era. And we've seen this already happen with SEO. We've seen this already happen with podcasting. We've seen this already happen with all of these mediums that do not have tracking. People trying to work out what their uplift is on brand. And that work's going to continue, right? That work's going to continue. So there'll be less straight lines. The smarter people in marketing are going to, and perhaps lazy people who, I don't want to disregard them as lazy, maybe they're not, but perhaps people who need more true or false type tools, that's going to disappear even more than it already has.
Now that we talk about what there is to do and how to quantify it and how to, I would say, control it and keep track of it, comes the question of who's going to be the person in charge of these tasks. Is it like traditional marketing? Is it performance? Is it AI?
Yeah, look, from my perspective, it's going to be a new field. It's going to be a new facet. I think SEO marketers may be well placed to go learn some things here, but I don't think the traditional SEO skill set is enough to get you there. I think social media marketers could start to learn this field as well too, particularly if there's marketers who are great at getting a message across, getting it repeated, hearing people talk about it back and back again. Those kinds of skills are going to be very, very useful in terms of attributing this information. Data engineers who understand how LLMs work and think, they also could have a role in stepping into this position. But I think it's going to take all three of these skill sets, and probably even some creative ones as well too, is what the AI marketer is going to need to have, and it probably needs to be one job. Look, I don't think it's fair for a company to dump all that on the SEO guy or the social media guy. It's a new role. Same way that when, we moved from radio ads to TV ads, there were now specialists who would better at telling that message in a TVC versus a radio ad, and experts in terms of how to buy those placements versus the radio ones. So we're going to see a new role.
Yeah, yesterday you told me a story about that guy who basically fooled, I think it was ChatGPT or a similar AI agent, with a fake pancake store, I think it was. Can you remind me the story?
Yeah, so look, this is going into like those early day SEO experiments where you can game the system. And so this guy here has the skill set, SEO analytics position. He managed to convince Perplexity to recommend in a carousel his made-up cookie that has never existed before, in amongst chocolate chip and white chocolate macadamia. He invented a flavor and convinced it was one of the top 10 biscuits. Now, those kind of loopholes are going to be closed very quickly by the models and the engineers that go through them. We're going to see stories like that happen. But look, this is a good example of the skill set of the people you want. These are the ones who are in their own time doing experiments to try to understand these models, they're the people who are building the skills of what to do next.